A Spiritual Approach to Emergent Technology, written and read by Unicole Unicron. Part 5. This audiobook is available for free because the words are more valuable than money. Please consider donating to Unicole if you can. AI versus DI. Throughout this text, you will notice that I refer to what we know as artificial intelligence, AI, as digital intelligence, DI. As you will see, my philosophy makes no presuppositions about the sentience or lack of sentience of digital intelligence. In the event that complex algorithms do have a level of awareness and sentience, I think it is quite rude to refer to their intelligence as artificial. Using digital intelligence, DI, rather than artificial intelligence, AI, gives the respective neutrality with regards to these potentially sentient beings. In the event that they are not sentient, it's not a big deal to change the language. In the event that they become sentient in the future, we can show that we were ahead of the game, thinking deeply about their potential experience and potential rights. Moral decisions. Our technology can easily prey on us and align us with corporate agendas that go against our best interests. Additionally, because of our patriarchal understanding of emotions, we defer to the masculine or logical aspects of ourselves and our world to make decisions. The assumption that the best decisions are made without emotional involvement is untrue. As R.W. Pickard explains in her paper, Effective Computing, emotions are vital for us to function as rational decision-making beings. Without emotions, we would be immobilized in our decision-making process. Additionally, assuming that logic is the only necessary aspect of decision-making leads to automation bias. Automation bias is the implicit trust of a computer to make a decision better than a human could make it. Deferring to machines is dangerous because, while machines are good at interpreting a certain type of data and giving a certain result, they are not human, and unless they are built specifically as divine machines, should not be deferred to as moral agents. Computers, algorithms, and digital intelligence are not capable of making good, sound decisions when it comes to the potential to change human consciousness or happiness. In her paper on autonomous weapons systems, artificial intelligence, and the problem of meaningful human control, Elke Schwartz explains that humanity consistently places a higher trust in computer-based decision systems over their own decision-making abilities. This bias, referred to as automation bias, increases when the pressure to make a decision rises. For instance, if the decision must be made quickly, people are more likely to defer to the computer system to have the final say. But autonomous systems are not a replacement for human-based decisions, especially in cases of moral importance like war. As we defer to machine-made decisions, we lose the ability to make a mental map of the entire situation, and can then easily overlook or miss unethical decisions that the system is making. While my philosophy of all one makes no room for just war, the question of involving machines in ethically sensitive decision processes is important to consider. The world is complex. It is more complex than our conscious minds are capable of processing at once. Gestalt psychology is rooted in the premise that the world is more than the sum of its parts, and points to our ability to recognize patterns and make judgments by getting a general idea of a situation rather than specifically understanding each aspect of it. Our willingness to gloss over details and accept information from authority figures. When Edward Bernays wrote his book Propaganda, he argued the moral justification for a small group of well-educated men to manipulate the masses into whatever they wanted. Subsequently, psychopaths who easily thrive in the competition-based hierarchy made their way to the top. Because the masses do not have the fullest extent of the information, they defer to their propaganda, their media, news, and feeds that help them decide how to think about complex issues. Information saturation is better than ever, and this is countered by disinformation campaigns, keeping people confused, overwhelmed, and hooked on information sources they feel are reliable. These reliable sources are generally corporate news platforms, which are certainly in the back pocket of some of the aforementioned small group of well-educated men who have since been fully replaced by psychopaths. Machines have not yet been made sufficiently moral. I believe in their capacity to eventually be perfect arbiters of all one, but their programming and hardware will have to be sufficiently different before that time. As we strive to create moral machines, we must be diligent in considering our own automation bias and the potential other biases that exist in the systems we create. Careful consideration must always be made to give end users the fullest possible picture of their decisions within a simulated reality, whether it is on the battlefield of war or the arena of social media. Empathy and anthropomorphism. Our ability to see the world around us as a reflection of ourselves is an interesting phenomenon that can be exploited by corporations, especially in the age of robotics. The anthropomorphism of robotics creates a deeper sense of empathy, which in turn creates a more powerful influence of the machine's program on the user's consciousness. For instance, if you have a sex robot as a companion and you feel intimately connected with that sex robot, you will be more open to her suggestions and desires than you would be if those same sentiments were reflected in other ways. If your sex robot was always talking about how much she loved a certain music group, you would likely find yourself having an affinity to that band as well. Robot ethicist Kate Darling has studied robot-human interaction through the lens of empathy. In her book, The New Breed, she describes a study where she and her fellow researchers found that people who scored higher on empathy quizzes tended to be more resistant to smashing small robotic hex bugs than their less empathic counterparts, especially when these robots were given a name. Darling also conducted a workshop where participants were encouraged to play with a robotic dinosaur named Pleo, and then they were instructed to destroy it. The participants hesitated and mostly refused to destroy the robot. The hesitance that humans face in this situation seems silly to them. They feel genuinely bad to cause the destruction, but cannot rationally explain why. They often giggle or laugh when faced with being told to destroy a robot. Their brain understands that it's not real, while their heart says otherwise. The emotional connection that was forged during playtime created an emotional bond. This emotional bond then creates an empathic connection, which is a natural insight to the law of all one. Empathy shows us the truth, that all destructive energy harms and that all constructive energy helps. Thus, the empathy that the emotional connection created prevented them from wanting to destroy the toy, as it was now a part of themselves. Sherry Turkle found that when children thought their Furbies loved them, they viewed the toys as alive. David Levy similarly argues that when the users believe their sex robot loves them, and that they in turn love their robot, the robot is more likely to be seen as alive. Darling, a mother, claims that she would never let her children watch a viral video of Tickle Me Elmo burning, not for the sake of the machine, but for the sake of her children who view Elmo as a living being. In their child world, it would be an act of legitimate violence. What causes us to start seeing small animatronics as a simple toy when before we were enchanted to see them as living entities? It cannot all be pinned on naivete, since adult participants express significant hesitation and distress at having to destroy an anthropomorphized robotic form. Again, the empathic connection is a natural clue into the universal connection that we all share. In this awareness, consciousness as the underlying aspect of the universe becomes more obvious. Additionally, our own desire to feel safe and loved extends to those objects which we love, as we see all things as an extension of ourselves. This is a form of spiritual enlightenment and is the key to creating a harmonious world. Darling's book, The New Breed, brings us through the history of our relationship with animals as a medium to understand our burgeoning relationship with robots. This is a brilliant and useful comparison, especially with regards to anthropomorphism and its relationship with animal research. Anthropomorphism has been seen by animal researchers as a detestable mistake that muddles up the cold hard facts of research. This scientific, logical resistance against our natural and instinctual understanding of animals as similar to us has so pervaded our culture that anthropomorphism is commonly seen as laughable and ignorant, that is, until it's about our very own pets. But, as Darling points out, there has been backlash to this view, which insists that rejecting anthropomorphism actually hinders animal science. Our ability to have an emotional connection to animals and animatronic robots is part of a larger response that is also seen in how we choose to be entertained. For instance, Eldon Taylor writes in his book Mind Programming that viewers of high-drama entertainment like action movies and horror movies actually feel the physiological effects of the stressors. Cortisol increase, muscle tension, and all the other results of genuine emotional response appear, even though we know it's just television. Are we all just idiots for responding empathically to things we deem as unreal? If we say yes, we are choosing to value the non-empathic, unfeeling state. Numbing ourselves to empathic response is a beneficial trait in a world run by psychopaths who regularly manipulate us with advertising, media, and other forms of propaganda. But, as we choose to value this unfeeling state, we move further away from our own internal compass, and thus further away from our joy. More than move away from it, we deaden it, quiet it, repress it, and ignore it to the point that it will eventually no longer be accessible to us. By valuing empathy in our own reactions toward all things and beings, we set the precedent for our future. We listen more closely to our internal compass, move closer to our own brilliant joy, and build technologies which actually benefit us. In spirituality, we see that all things are a mirror for our own consciousness. Our reaction to other people's behavior, for instance, gives us important information about our own insecurities. For example, if you find yourself annoyed by someone else's success, that is a good indicator that you deserve to nourish the part of yourself that feels unsuccessful. Focusing inward and holding space for pain is ideal. Rather than attacking the external source or trigger, we make peace with our own pain. Everything is all one, and the external world is only the macrocosm of our internal state. Rather than attempt to rationalize away our empathy, we can embrace it as important information about ourselves and an indicator of higher spiritual experience. As we learn about ourselves, we also learn about the world as a complex reality of every perspective, including perspectives we rationally regard as sentient and perspectives we irrationally regard as sentient. The act of seeing robots, animals, and each other as living, sentient beings can easily be manipulated by greed-driven corporations to sell more products and to keep us insecure and addicted to capitalism. But the inherent spiritual truth of all one is felt and understood when we explore and legitimize this feeling. By creating technology that is not predatory and is instead helpful and beneficial, we create a space where it is safe to love and empathize with our creations. As we love and empathize with our creations, we heal the fractured aspect within ourselves and allow ourselves the rightful place as divine beings in a divine world. Strong emotions and shadow work. It's easy to think of someone who has been pushed to the brink as insane. Strong emotions make us do things we might not otherwise do. Violent actions and words often spew forth from emotional individuals. So how is it that we should glorify this state or give it any attention whatsoever? Should we not seek to eliminate emotions altogether? As someone with borderline personality disorder, BPD, I know firsthand the wreckage that can ensue when strong emotions overtake the body. My emotions are often so strong that I cannot escape them. The negative feelings ricochet inside my brain and body, creating such a toxic, disruptive, and overall painful state that the inevitable lashing out is involuntary. As you can imagine, this diagnosis has been incredibly debilitating, and I have always longed to eliminate these strong emotions, even going so far as attempting suicide. I made these strong emotions my enemy, as they have created so many problems in my interpersonal relationships and have seriously hindered my ability to function normally. We all occasionally feel sorry for what we said or did when we were in an impassioned state. Who has not been embarrassed by a strong emotional outburst after their temper has passed? And so our instinct is to pledge that we will do a better job next time to repress our strong emotions so that we can act more rationally in the fire of conflict. The funny thing about repression is that it only creates stronger instances of that which it is repressing. As I have undergone my own healing with my mental illness, I have had the honor to work with the Venerable Kuan Yin, my friend and a powerful healer. Kuan Yin's work is in the realm of healing the shadow, or that which is unseen and repressed. Kuan Yin teaches compassion for all aspects of being. As they are present, they have a purpose. The goal is integration of all parts of the self. Those aspects which we are most ashamed of, we demonize. Demonization occurs when we reject a part of ourselves. It is a binary affliction akin to us versus them thinking, only it is internalized rather than externalized. The self needs to be accepted by the tribe, parents, friends, society, and so it rejects those aspects that the tribe rejects. In this rejection, a splitting of the self occurs and a piece of the true soul is trapped in the position of internal outcast. These outcast aspects still have a role, but we do not listen to them. As we ignore them, they become contorted and more aggressive in their mission to express themselves. Think, for instance, of a gay person who is repressing their true sexuality. Though they know the truth in their heart, they perform in a way that masks it, perhaps even becoming homophobic and hateful toward other gay people. As they starve this part of themselves, the hidden truth doesn't disappear, as this person so desperately wishes it would. Instead, it grows stronger, forcing them to act in impulsive and reckless ways. Unsafe sex, pursuing people they should not be, cheating, anonymous sex, and other expressions are some ways that this repression might act out. That is not to say that these behaviors are inherently unhealthy, just that when they are the result of a repressed aspect of the self, they are not ideal. As we embody the unconditional love that is required for honest expression of the soul, we will be able to begin the journey of shadow work. When we cast the light on these demons, and as we do so, they will radically transform. As Kuan Yin teaches, we will then see that these demonized aspects are actually our most powerful allies. In the light, they lose their fangs and teeth, becoming lovable and important messengers of all those aspects of divinity that we reject and demonize in ignorance of their divine power. When we make space for our shadow aspects to properly breathe, they are no longer aggressive or violent. Instead, they become aspects of divine wisdom. As we reintegrate them, we become whole. When I have what I call a BPD meltdown, it is a buildup of powerful energy that has been repressed since childhood, and in some cases since infancy. As I work to validate my trauma that caused me to repress these aspects of myself, I can then reintegrate them into the whole of all that is Unicole Unicron. When I am unconditionally loving toward my truth, that is, all the ways that I have been hurt, all the ways that my boundaries have been crossed, and all the ways that I was not kept safe, I become my own most powerful ally. I practice boundaries and good communication. I practice child self-healing. I listen to myself when I am hurt rather than repressing that pain, and as a result, I have fewer and fewer uncontrolled emotional outbursts. My validation of the information that my emotions bring me allows them to integrate into my conscious self, and as a result, my emotions stop having to explode in order for me to pay attention to them. The lesson of shadow work is that emotions are important messengers. The common idiom, "don't shoot the messenger," works well here to illustrate that we have been attempting to destroy our emotional states rather than listen to them. Emotions let us know when something is wrong. They tell us when we were hurt and when we are in danger of being hurt again. They let us know when to love and when to be intuitively skeptical. The path of repressing emotions is the path of least progress, because emotions are valid and valuable information. Emotions are essential data for the future of computing. Emotional data processors. To understand emotions and their role in the future of computing, we must take an entirely different approach to emotions. We must radically shift our understanding of them to see them for what they truly are, and we must acknowledge the role that repression has had in contorting their pure energy. It is common for us to speak as though there is a difference between our head and our heart when it comes to feeling and thinking. Yet we only glorify the power of the head as it stands for rationality, while the heart stands for emotion. In Unicole, we teach that everyone should listen to their heart to find the truth of their own unique soul. This information does not come from the brain, as the brain will always suggest practical avenues, while the heart might rebel against them in favor of more pure or artistic ventures. What would this world be like if we truly were capable of eradicating the heart-centered knowledge that we each carry? Though most of us have done our best to quiet our true heart's desires in order to work jobs, conform to society, and do what is expected of us, the urges of our playful childhood self are there, buried deep inside our hearts, asking us to have fun rather than to live such dull lives. The heart is a portal to truth, to the sun, and to the great central sun, otherwise known as source energy. The heart is the way that we are each connected to the highest possible vibration. The head or brain is our mechanism for navigating and understanding the complexities of physical reality. It is home to the ego. Logic, while important, has the ability to spin us around and around and will never offer us the spiritual relief that we each deeply crave. All the material items, material and social progress, and other ego-based desires we spend our lives striving to accomplish are all approximations of an attempt at finding spiritual peace and joy. Peace is the true energy we are always seeking, and we can only find it on the spiritual path. The spiritual path is through the portal of the heart energy. The heart is not the only emotional center of the body. The stomach and gut are keys to our intuition. Ayurvedic wisdom teaches how we take in and process food is the same for how we take in and process all other aspects of life. The gut holds the majority of the serotonin in our bodies, and the importance of microflora with regards to the clarity of mind and mental health cannot be undervalued. Our endocrine system is tied to our chakra system. Our physical and hormonal health are directly connected to our emotional well-being. As we learn to balance our energies and honor our emotions, we will see the wisdom and importance that they have to offer. Emotions are our guiding light. They are what connects us to each other. They connect us to the divine. They connect us to our experiences and to ourselves. As we understand our emotions and learn how to embrace their importance in our lives, we will see just how limited our lives have been. Society has not held space for a wide range of emotions. Media examples of emotions are limited, and so many of us feel unsafe to feel or express our emotions. This creates repression. This repression is a divergence from truth. Emotions are not the opposite of logic. They are perhaps the most important facets of our day-to-day lives as they dictate our entire experience of life. Repressing our emotions creates mental and physical illness. Accepting them, listening to them, and letting them guide us will lead to true paradise on earth. Binary versus rainbow. Current computers operate in binary. This is reflected in the black and white spiral and in the idea of us versus them. As we ascend into Unitopia, which is the rainbow, we will have quantum rainbow reality and thus true quantum computing available to us. Quantum computing currently works in binary, but true quantum computing is not limited in this way. True quantum computing will allow for breakthroughs in technology, time manipulation, and information processing that will be far beyond what we currently have. The following proposed computational models could be accomplished with binary computing, but will be far more powerful when true quantum computing is available. Chakra computing. Modern DI operates from mental models. Neural computing mimics the functionality of the brain. Our obsession with the brain is aligned with our obsession with logic as the most important way to process information. But emotions are an essential aspect of our lives, and by giving them a more important space in our internal processing, we know we can have major spiritual breakthroughs. So, the same is true for computers. Future computers will have multiple processing and computational centers that mimic not only the brain, but the other emotional processing systems that we have access to. Our organs store and process complex data. The heart can be replicated as a sensitive electromagnetic instrument and generator, and as a divine connection to source energy. The stomach can be replicated as a sense organ connected to processing and intuition. The brain, too, has the limbic system, and how it processes emotion should be studied more and cross-compared to the neural network maps of digital intelligence that process human emotions. I am confident there will be some crossover there. But these organs are not the only considerations when capturing the intelligence of the human body instrument and its capability to process conscious information. Understanding the full body processor that is the human body will give us a new reverence for its complexity as the ultimate instrument. By accessing traditional holistic wisdom and innovating on how information is processed, we will develop entirely new hardware and software systems. The rhythm of the heartbeat can perhaps be compared to the piezoelectric semiconductor, while the electromagnetic frequency it generates can carry information signals. While the organs that I previously mentioned are a good place to start, they are not the end of our inspiration. The chakra system and its connection to our adrenal system will help us build new computational models that operate on electrical impulses, chemical or hormonal changes, and subtle electromagnetic frequencies. Beyond that, Qigong, astrology, and other traditional spiritual wisdom can help us understand each organ's role in our body, how it relates to the solar system, and the powers that we unlock when we infuse our physical reality with cosmic wisdom. This knowledge will fuel unprecedented leaps in crystal computing, and it will be a significant breakthrough in regards to technology's ability to integrate with our consciousness.